Welcome to another episode of Search for the Secret. Very excited about this one. And for those that don't know about The Secret, a treasure hunt by Byron Preiss, just a little bit of quick info. So, back in the early 80s, a book publisher by the name of Byron Preiss decided to create a treasure hunt. He went throughout the US and Canada and he buried what most think are 12 casks. Now, to find these casks, you have to take a combination of 12 different images and 12 different verses, connect one to one verse, one image, identify the location, and use the verse clues to help you to find the final spot where you want to dig. To date, there's been 3 out of the 9 that have been found after 40 plus years. So definitely not an easy treasure hunt to get into and get involved with. However, it is quite an exciting thing to try and do something that is so difficult. And there are many different views on how to approach this. There's some that think that most of the locations have been figured out and the verses have been connected, and there's many others who don't believe that. I'm of the probably alt theory group, if you could call it that. And you can see that in most of my videos that I've created. This particular one, though, is a very exciting one for me because I think we found quite the location that encompasses all the different clues. Now, this is image 2 within the book. And image 2 just has so much to it. I mean, I just believe this is such an amazing artistic reference to this location, but also quite the fun one. For those that know, and even those that don't, this is connected to what is the Africa immigration connection. And so I ask for you to stay with me a little bit as I get into how this particular image connects to Africa and the location that we're talking about, because it may not make sense right off the bat, but I promise you it will. Now, the images were created by an absolutely amazing artist, one of my favorites, and got to give kudos to his son, who also created one, a new 13th cask, and created a video on that one. But also, I'm of the belief that there is 13 total casks. There's a hidden 13th that first initially one was buried in Toronto, but because of floods that were hitting the Toronto Islands where it was buried in 2018, I think it was, those who had created this, in my opinion, dug that one up and have now used it for a location in the US for a 13th treasure hunt. And I made videos on both of those. So if you have a chance, check them out. But that's a very alternative view than most of the, I'd say, longer term searchers have. But there's many reasons and good reasons to believe that there is a 13th treasure. So, but I don't want to focus too much on that today. I really want to focus on image 2 here, and we're going to connect it to verse 11. And so let's get moving here and let's have some fun. So one of the most important things, in my opinion, is connecting the image to the location. And all of our solves, that if you check out my different videos, I'll say our different videos because I've had a lot of help from family and friends, and so it's been quite the journey. But each image, in my opinion, connects you to the location. And you're not going to find this particular blue, this turquoise blue, in many locations in the US or Canada. But absolutely amazingly, this is what got me looking in the area that we're going to be showing today. And this particular lake is really what caught my eye because, as you can see, the turquoise blue is spot on. It's absolutely amazing. And then when you even, dive in a little closer, you can even see some very unique connections to this particular lake. Has similar shape and very unique location, right? Now, where is this? Let's get into that. So, where we're taking you today is part of Alaska. And along this particular piece of Alaska, and we'll get into that, how that connects to the immigration in just a little bit, there is a particular park. It became a national park in 1980, which is very interesting because the book was published once again in the 80s and specifically came out in November of 1982. Now, this particular park was a well known park well before that. I think going back to the early 1900s. And I think it was even some sort of a national monument or something. We'll get into that in one of the images here in the very soon. But one thing to think about, right, or two things. Where we're going is going to have a forest, okay, of a dark forest. We'll share that in just a little bit. And then also, pears do grow in Alaska. It's one of the rare fruits that do. But so don't think that Alaska doesn't have pears. They actually absolutely do. So where is this particular park? Because this is where it's pointing to. Okay, check this out. So Katmai National Park and Preserve once again was created or made a national park in 1980. And as you can see, the pear is pointing directly to where that national park is. So let's keep moving forward here. Now, those that know the book know that Africa is connected to number 13. Once again, 13, not 12. Some people will say that, Scotland and Ireland are connected to each other, the 4 and 5 for immigration. I disagree. And you can check out my other videos on why that is the case. So, but Africa is connected to number 13. Okay. Now, check this out. Number 13 is connected to tree fairies. Okay, so the tree fairies of Africa. Just keep that in mind because that's going to be an important piece here in just a little bit. So, in the book, it talks about the tree spirits from Africa and the native Caribbees, so the Caribbean. But most people have missed this word right here, newcomer, tree spirits. So newcomer, people from Africa and the Caribbeans. Now, why would it say newcomer? Because most people and most searchers, and I agree, this is referencing those that came through, like the slave trade. And prior to that, what would have been those that came before? The newcomers, right? Who would have come out of Africa before the newcomers came? This is a very important word. He didn't have to put that in there, but he did for a very specific reason, because there was Africans who came into the Americas well before the tree spirits of Africa and native Caribbeans, those that came through, once again, the slave trade. Now, let's go into that. So, and I'm not questioning this. We'll get into some of the anthropological pieces and differences and views in just a second here, in just a minute. But the out of Africa model, okay, whether I'm condoning it or saying it's true or not, that's a completely different thing. What I'm saying is he's highlighting the out of Africa model. Okay. And we'll show some great evidence for that in the image, and also, once again, connecting all the different dots. Now, out of Africa model basically shows that people started in Africa, moved out up into Europe, different parts of the Middle East, and going into parts of Asia and down into Australia, but also across the Bering Land Bridge into Alaska. So the very first, not the newcomer tree spirits, but the very first tree spirits, the very first individuals from Africa came out of Africa and made their way across the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas based off of the out of Africa model. Now, I believe this is actually a bit of a reference point for it. You have this very unique piece. Now, this is like the very first image that you see when you come into the book. I believe it's the first image. I could be off of that, but basically the first image once you get to the story. And what is very interesting about this is not only do you have this kind of unique kind of shape here, but you also have this very unique knee that's making kind of a point here, almost like you'd see in Africa, right? With the Horn of Africa, which I believe that is right there. Don't hate me if I say something incorrect. My geography is so-so. But once again, I believe this is pointing to out of Africa model. And it's being told to Native American. And we'll get into the importance of the Native Americans and how each of my different image, verse, and searches have a specific location where native populations of the Americas were affected by immigration and migration. And in this, you see one of the tree fairies communicating to a Native American. And in my opinion, it's talking about the out of Africa model. As you can see here, it's like a family tree that is moving across different parts of the world. Now, not to get into a debate on whether the out of Africa model is correct or not. Doesn't matter what my personal beliefs are, and I don't even think it matters what the personal beliefs of Byron Preiss, the book publisher, were, because I think he gave an out to basically those who did believe that and those who don't. Because not only is he referencing it, but he also gives what? Who's telling the story? That's right, a fairy. So is he saying it's a fairy tale? Or is he just saying that the Native Americans being told the story of their particular immigration into the Americas? Now, I'll leave that up to you. And probably like a good book publisher, he didn't want to create any sort of drama with something like that. I think he was just giving you, as the reader, an option to pick it yourself by having a fairy be able to tell the story. So, the Bering Land Bridge theory, right? Once again, coming from out of Africa, going different parts, but the first Africans, those of African descent, would have come through the Bering Land Bridge across into the Americas and into Alaska. So, what else do we have in the image? It gives us kind of a clue that that might be the case. Well, in the head of the lion, you actually see what looks a little bit like part of Russia, right? Part of the Bering Land Bridge. Now, you may see it, you may not. That's okay. But once again, with the Alaska connection to the particular tree and that twig with the pear, as well as this, it's starting to add up a little bit. But we're going to go much deeper. And I think by the end of this, you're going to be hopefully at least questioning whether or not it is or is not in Alaska. I'm hoping I can convince some of you that it is. So, for those that know about the secret, each of the different searches and each of the different images have a flower. Now, the flower is connected to the number within which you most see as a clock, and I'll show you where the clock is. You probably did not notice it when we first opened it up, but I'll share that with you in just a little bit. But the clock for this particular image is on the number 4. Now, why does that matter? Because the 4th month of the year is April, and the birthday flower, one of the birthday flowers, the main one for April, is a daisy. So, what's really neat is that it really well, the image daisy very much connects to, the Alaska Shasta daisy. Looks pretty spot on, doesn't it? Also, this is an important piece here because I know some of the longtime searchers who believe this is a different part of the US, and this is a particular piece, this right here, in the image that has convinced them for many years that it can't be anything else. And I'm not going to get into theirs. I don't want to try to knock down anybody else's their theories. I think they have great theories, and I've always tried to understand them. They don't usually speak to me as well. Once again, I'm more that alt kind of theory type in this search. And I really do enjoy more of the alt theories than I do the ones that have been kind of stagnant. And, it's been a couple decades now that they've, pretty convinced that they've figured out location and verse connections and stuff. But 20 years plus and still uh, you know, no real cast to show that. So just trying to think outside the box a little bit, and I'm hoping some of you will give me an opportunity to do that here and maybe change some minds. But anyway, this particular image right here, especially this, okay, I do say that they have a very good connection to their location, which I think is Charleston. If I'm saying that incorrectly, I'm sorry. Just not really, trying to focus on this right now. So, but this is found right where we're going. Okay, this is Mount Katmai, and this is very important right here, which is a glacier lake, and we'll get into some of that just a little bit. But you can see that there's at least another location where you can find this type of connection. I mean, kind of looks very very similar. I'll admit this port right here might look a little bit better connected to the Charleston, but it's here. You can see it. Now, this over here, I think, connects better into Katmai. And in fact, when you really look at these, you kind of look at these kind of chipped off kind of shapes and stuff. They almost look more like they're covered in snow and ice, and you can see them here. Okay, um, and this, especially this Mount Katmai piece right here, it looks much better than what you would see in some of the other image connections that really are just focused on this particular piece right here. I think this gives us quite the connection, and something that I hope will keep some of you longtime searchers at least interested in continuing to explore this video. So, why is that Katmai piece so important, and Mount Katmai? Well, once again, it has a crater lake. Okay, it's a beautiful crater lake, and it connects in some ways to the color and the clearness of the diamond. And many will say that this is connected to the Hope Diamond or looks a little bit like that, and I agree. I think that's pretty close. And we'll get into why he used the diamond specifically for this location. And it has to do with large volcanic eruption, actually the largest volcanic eruption of the 20th century. And we'll share that and why that's so important for diamonds and why he used the largest eruption of the 20th century uh, and the location of that for the diamond search. Now, already started talking about it. Knowing me, I always try to get ahead a little bit, but Africa's diamond, earth-born star, bright harvest of the midnight rock. Now, why would it be called midnight rock? Well, what happens is diamonds are deep, deep underneath the Earth's crust. They're so deep, in fact, that they need massive, massive eruptions to bring them to the top. And like I said, and I don't know if there's any diamonds that came up from the Katmai. I don't think there's much proof that there is. But once again, it's the largest volcanic eruption in the entire world in the 20th century. And I'll show you the scale of how large this thing really was in just a little bit. But it's, hopefully understandable that if you were going to do something in North America that is connected to volcanoes, connected to how volcanoes bring up, once again, surface, massive volcanoes that bring diamonds from deep underground in the darkness and the midnight, right? Where there's nothing, there's no light until they come to the top, until they're brought up by a massive volcano. So, once again, a little bit deeper into what Katmai, when it was formed. It was a national monument starting in 1918, and that was after the volcanic eruption of 1912. It's called Nova Rupta. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. Now, once again, it was later expanded and redesigned as Katmai National Park and Preserve in 1980. So that's a very important date, and we'll get into that why, just a little bit later, because I was able to track down some maps of what it looked like before 1980 and what it looked like after 1980. Just about probably, I think it was 10 to 15 year uh, um, difference, and it'll actually, some of the maps I was able to track down will show you the differences, year by year, and some of the things that was some of the different pieces that were actually added in the redesign for the national park, which is very helpful and important to know where we should look. So we'll get into that in just a bit. Now, Nova Rupta, this once again, this was the piece that went boom, and such a massive, massive volcano. But how did we see this? How did he connect this into the imagery? Now, snow, right? You have the same shape up and then down. You have this over here, just like you do here. And if it kept going, I think I might have cut it off. I might have been able to find more, but you even have some of the stuff that's over here. But and then you have this really unique formation right here. As you see some people walking, but you see the same formation right in here. You see the boulders and stuff. Um, very, very interesting connections. You even see the snow as it goes into this area. So we literally have the shape of Nova Rupta in the imagery, snow and everything, right? We also have more color imagery connections to Katmai area, which I think is fantastic. Once again, there's massive ash that was dumped all over this, massive destruction that affected many, many miles and surrounding miles of all parts of Alaska because of how big this was, and I'm sure probably affected many different parts of North America and probably even into Russia because of how, depending on the wind direction and all that good stuff. But check out this over here because once again, the imagery should have so many different amazing connections to the colors and things like that. But check this out. So we're going to be looking here. Okay, we're going to go into that in just a second, but you'll see the color connections. But before I do that real quickly, I mentioned that there's a clock. The clock's right here, and once again, it's pointing to 4, so which is April. And that's where we get the daisy. But check this color connection out. See the color connection to the ash? Now this is one part of the ash. There's many different colors of ash, which is very important in where we're going in some of the verse clues, which we haven't even shared yet. So that'll come soon. But just showing some image connections and hopefully getting some of you a little excited that there's a possibility here that is in Katmai. Now, I love the lion's head and the uniqueness here because it's a very unique kind of shape, and doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a lion. It's got this like these ridges and stuff, but it does connect very nicely to Katmai and a map of Katmai. I mean, even this part goes like right over the eye structure here. So I don't know how much of a stretch this is. You have some different waterways coming down here, just like you do here, but you basically see the same shape as a Katmai map. Pretty cool. Now, where are we going to be going? Katmai's big, but there's a specific location I guarantee you've seen. I didn't realize it until I started looking into this, and this is a very modern map. So we'll get into some older maps that will really kind of break some stuff down for you and let you see and better understand what it looked like when Byron possibly came here. I say possibly, I'm pretty confident he did, but obviously I want to leave a little bit of openness to it because until something's proven, until we have a cask, nothing's proven. It's just my theory, right? So here we go. We're going to be going deeper, and we're going to be going to a specific place that's called Brook Falls and the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. So basically, we'll talk about how we get here. Now, some more image connections I think you'll really like. And this one, I've got to really say, this particular image and verse and search has so many great connections to the Wizard of Oz, and both in the verse and in the imagery. I think the fact that there's a lion out of Africa, right? But also, when you think about the Wizard of Oz, you think lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. All right, so just keep that in mind. But check this out. Check out this part right here, because it very well and very nicely color and shape and everything connects to the grass that you find out in Katmai. Okay. Now, once again, what's the importance about bears in Katmai? Well, we'll talk about that in a bit, and I guarantee you, most of you, if not all of you, have seen Katmai and Brook Falls without even knowing it. Okay, but once again, some very interesting connections to coloring, as well as the grass and the shape. Now, how do we know that there's bears here? And maybe most of you didn't ever even realize that not only does the clock have teeth, and we'll share a little bit why that's the case and the importance of this particular piece of the image, but it has fangs. Okay, these are fangs, right? You have teeth and fangs. Why would you have that? Why? Okay, well, teeth, fangs, teeth, fangs. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, so we've already kind of covered the flower, the pear, what that means, shapes, imagery, color, imagery, shape of the head, color, shape of the grass, the diamond. All right, let's keep going deeper though. Now, let's get into the actual verses because what's the important what's the point of having a location that you can't connect the actual verses to? If you can't find a location that has great imagery connections, great immigration connections, connections to the diamond or the jewel, connections to the flower, but it wouldn't matter if you can't figure out what verse matters, right? And as I mentioned, there's going to be some verse connections to the Wizard of Oz. So, past two friends of Octave. Now, we have some clues that came out in the Japanese version that was published a little bit, I think a couple years after the version that came out in North America. And these are the two specific verse additional hints, because once again, they were trying to help those Japanese readers to better understand how certain things might mean, transfer over in languages. It's kind of like an internationalization, localization of some of the verses. And Byron was the one who was speaking to and giving these additional clues in with a individual who was translating and giving some of those additional clues to the Japanese audience. Now, the first one is line 1, octave. Octave is usually relates to the number 8, right? Or it can be used in music, different octaves. But however, Mr. Preiss hints that in this case it is a proper noun. So it's a name. Okay. They're not giving any further hints, but it's a proper noun. So it's a name. Now, most searchers, and I agree with them, connect it to octave chanute. Okay. Now, why in the world would he connect it to octave chanute? Well, who is octave chanute? Well, basically he is known as the father of aviation, and brought forward the initial concepts of what you consider heavier than air flying machines. He was also basically inspired and the aviation enthusiasts, the Wright brothers. So we have a great connection to flight, and specifically, and I know why. There's also some consideration of the location most longtime searchers think this is connected to, because it's their final location, from what I can tell, is about 8 miles away from the Wright brothers monument. And there's an important piece of that with a later part of the verse, but I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction, and why he's basically telling us to pass two friends of octave. So pass two friends of octave Chanute, the father of aviation. Now, why do we have to do pass two friends of octave? Well, this is just a fun little picture of octave Chanute. Basically, he was at 64 years of age and he's experimenting with the glider. So that's pretty bold. Give me that. I mean, talk about dauntless and inconquerable. That's part of the verse, and later, and we'll get into some of that in just a little bit here. But once again, pass two friends of octave. Now, how do we get to Katmai? How do we get to Brook Falls? You can drive up to Alaska. You can get to Anchorage without having to take a flight. But to get to Katmai, you need to take two small flights, a connection to King Salmon and a float plane to Brooks Camp. Okay? Then they take you to the shores of Naknek Lake, which we just showed, that has the amazing connection to the colors and the turquoise blue. And this has been the case for quite a long time. Ever since people have been coming out here, they've been taking flights out that direction. And so essentially, past two friends of octave, you take two flights. You take two small flights, one into King Salmon and one into Brooks Camp. Now, there's going to be some people who say, well, Byron mentioned that, the locations will have to be in driving distance. Well, it will be in driving distance, or in this case, it'll just be in a quick hike distance from a particular location. And that's what he's saying. He's not saying that, it's going to be in driving distance from every location, and every treasure hunt's going to be, in driving distance from any part of the US. He's saying there's going to be a place that you can go, and you can go and find this within distance that you're not going to have to go hike, 10 miles or 100 miles into the wilderness. He's saying there's a place that you're going to be able to go to, and from there it's within a driving distance. And in this case, it's about a mile and a half out from Brooks Camp. And when you do get there, you're going to be on a seaplane. Okay. And basically, this is right outside Brook Falls. This is at, I believe, I'm not sure if this is Brook Lake or if it's Naknek Lake. There's different lakes right next to each other, but I'm not, I think this is Naknek, but I could be wrong. But still, this is from the NPS website, and it shows basically one of the friends of Octave, or one of the flights that you have to take to get to Katmai. Now, past two friends of Octave, we've taken two flights to get to where we need to go, which is Brook Falls area, Brook Camp, and essentially Katmai National Park. Now, in December, ride the Man of Oz to the land near the window. So, well, let's talk about who's the Man of Oz. Well, there's really only one character in Wizard of Oz that has the name or the word man in its name. And who is that? The Tin Man, right? So the Tin Man is who we're thinking about. Now, what's the important about a Tin Man? Well, what does he do? What is he known for, especially when it gets wet? He rusts. Does he not? Now, this particular flying service, Rusts, has been around bringing fishermen, hunters, um, explorers into Katmai and different parts of Alaska for over 60 years. One of the only ones that have been around that long. And we'll get into just a little bit, we'll share a little bit more on this, who Russ connects to. But if you also think about it, um, many airplanes are most, I think airplanes, don't get mad at me if I'm wrong on this, but I think especially the small ones are aluminum based. Um, and, what do we normally call, aluminum foil? We call it tin foil, right? So in a sense, it's kind of like a tin foil, aluminum foil, or aluminum type of vehicle that has the name Rusts, connecting it to the Tin Man of the Wizard of Oz. Now, like I said, Rusts was formed back in 1963 through an old Air Force colonel, World War II, Henry Hank Rust, who founded Rusts and was bringing different planes, hunters and stuff, back into Alaska, and specifically even into Katmai for a very long time. Probably would have been one of the only options for somebody who has that experience and capability and knowledge to go in the winter time. Okay. Now, once again, they are a national park service. Been doing it for 60 plus years into Alaska, and it's been taken over by the family of the original pilot. And I'm not kidding when I say this. I did call them a number of years back. I think I spoke to the son of the founder, and yeah, he was probably just being kind to me. But I did bring up the name, and I did ask if there's any chance there's a remembering of somebody by the name of Byron Preiss going out there. And they kind of laughed at it and did say that they think they remember somebody like that. And they think they have some kind of a memory about a Byron Preiss. But once again, I'm sure they were just, kind of being nice to me with my crazy question. But I thought that was pretty cool. They were very nice as well. And, um, you know, uh, whether or not they do remember or not, they probably don't even remember having that conversation with me, but I did. And so who knows? Now, why is it Ride the Man of Oz or Rust's um, service and planes into the land near the window? Well, what's there? Once again, Crater Lake. Okay, not only does it make a nice color connection to the diamond, but crater lakes, the reason why they are so clear, especially when they freeze over in December in the wintertime, is because they don't have usually don't have other water bringing in from different locations and streams. So there's nothing really kind of disturbing the water. They're also usually fairly deep, and it's also certain gases sometimes that can help to make them extremely window-like, especially during the winter when they have frozen. So you have this beautiful crater lake at the top of Lake Katmai. Not only connects, very nicely to the colors and everything in the diamond, but also connect to this particular verse connection of being a window in December. And so if you can just imagine being taken in the wintertime in December by rusts into the winter in Alaska. See, here, this is rusts. Thought this was a great image and thought it would be fun to share because this is what I would imagine it would look like as you're taking a trip on the Man of Oz into the wintertime in Alaska and going above and seeing, once again, a beautiful window known as a crater lake on top of Katmai Mountain or Mount Katmai. Now, this is Mount Katmai, right? This is a beautiful image, right? Check out how I put it into the imagery. Now, you have this point up here, just like you do here, okay? Now you have some snow and everything that goes on over here, just like you do this direction. Okay, so you have it just like this, but it comes down. See how it comes down and then drops, a little drop and a drop. It comes down, a little drop, and then a big drop. Okay, and then it keeps coming down, just like we have here. Spike comes down, a big drop, just like we have here, and then it starts to come down this direction. Look, evergreen pine trees right here, a forest. So we even have imagery of Mount Katmai, or at least something that looks like it. Now there's a road that leads to a dark forest where white is in color. Now, I'm going to challenge any other searcher to find better connection to these verses anywhere in North America. Anywhere. I don't think you can. I really don't. To find a true dark forest where white is in color all year. I'm not even talking about just wintertime. Yeah, there's a lot of snow, there's a lot of ice out here in Katmai to say that, it could be that's what he's talking about. No, where white is in color all year long and a dark forest and the right one road that leads to both of them. All right, let's go because this is one of the strongest points of this whole verse and image connections. Now, Brooks Camp, we take a road. Okay. Now we pass Brooks Falls where we're going to end up over here. But the road, it's not saying to take it all the way to there. He's just saying there's a road. And the road leads to to Valley of 10,000 Smokes. Okay. Why is this so important? Because this is where we get closer to Nova Ruta. It's where we get closer to the, where the volcanic eruption happened. And not only was there just these smoke, 10,000 plus smokes coming out of the ground for decades, and I think there might still be some, but obviously the closer you were to the actual volcanic eruption after that had happened in 1918, the more you would have seen there. And there's just absolutely amazing historic images and stuff that you can go search on your own. We'll get into some stuff here in just a little bit, but let's get closer and deeper into the verse. So essentially we're going to go to a location that has a dark forest. Okay, so once again, we're going to be taking from Brook Falls, we're going to be taking this road. And as you can see, and we'll show this even deeper, you kind of see how this a little bit greener here. You can see the color here, the turquoise, which you can see here, turquoise, once again. But you have this connection to the road. Okay, you have the same shape of the road that we're going to be taking. Now check up out here, very dark, right? It's a very dark part of the image. It gets almost black. The reason for that is because this forest gets very dark as well, and I'll show you why. There's two reasons why, but I've had to shift my thought on this a little bit, and diving deeper into it. But there's really two reasons why. One was the volcano, and there's another reason why, and I'll share that in just a little bit here. But as you can see, we have the turquoise, we have the road, okay, turquoise, the road, okay, and then we have dark, and it's dark. I didn't do anything to this image. This is dark. This is the way it looks. As you can see, color over here, a little bit greener over here, darker over here. Okay? Now, once again, part of that is because that forest is located close to where the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, where the 1912 eruption. You can see there's even charred wood that's closer to the volcanic eruption. But that charred wood also affected the forests. But and for a long time, that's what I thought was the main piece. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, over time, you know what? Even even like 60 plus years that Byron had gone out, we're talking 1918 to 1980-ish. That's a long time, right? So I don't think there would have been that much effect still. I thought there would be a lot of regrowth and stuff of the forest, so I'm glad I found this next clue because it really finally opened up, the answer to me here. But this was part of the reason why you'll see some darkness in the forest because it's very close where we're going to the Nova Rupta volcanic eruption, which did and still does have an effect on what you see when you go out there and you go to visit on that one particular road. Now, here, thankfully, this is on the NPS website. Thank you, Andrew Lavelle, whoever that is, who posted this on the NPS website because, as you can see, there's very dark gray pieces of the Brook Falls Trail, which is right off of that road that we're going to take to get to 10,000 Smokes. And the reason why you see such darkness from, basically an image from above, even today, is because, and I love that he wrote Emerald Forest. I don't think he's thinking at all about the Wizard of Oz or anything, but in the post, he wrote Emerald Forest, which connects another thing to, once again, the Wizard of Oz. I was like, oh, that's cool, the Emerald Forest. But as you see, as you're going into, there's a bunch of dead spruce trees. And the reason why is actually because of a beetle. There's a specific beetle that actually does this, and it's been going on for a very, very long time. And basically it makes it a very eerie, dark forest. And it's a natural, recurring. I think it happens more under certain circumstances based off of weather and stuff like that. But this is something that's been going on for a very long time. And as you can see, it's even still talked about how it's a very gray, how it's a skeletal trees, outnumbered the trees that are alive. So once again, you have a dark forest that we're going to be walking through. We take a trail, we take a road that takes us to this particular trail that we're going to be going on. And it's a dark forest. So once again, in Brooks Camp, dead trees are especially visible on the trail of Brook Falls and along the road to the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. So the road, right? There are dry branches, creak as they sway and wind, all that good stuff. So dark forest. All right. Now, if we can connect white that is basically there all year and not just particular part of the year on this same road, then I think we're on to something here. Now, one more thing, one more piece before we get any deeper. As I mentioned, this is where we're going. This is the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, and this is where we'd be going in terms of our path. Check this out. Check out how dark this is. Okay, over here in this particular forest. Not over here. You see beautiful blue turquoise, just like we should. And up here we see green. Up by Dumpling Mountain. So you can see a huge difference. The green is not there. So it's a dark forest. It absolutely is a dark forest. Now, we've already covered the road leads through dark forest. We know where that is, where white is in color. Now, check this out because like I said, this is, I think, one of the biggest proof points to what I'm saying as being the right location, both to the image and the verse. Now, when the Nova Rupta volcano erupted, what happened? What was the first thing it let out? The thick layer of white ash erupted. Okay. Now, Brooks River, Katmai. You can still see some of it here. You can still see a lot more of it. Trust me, I'm going to go very deep into this. It's really neat. All right. So these are real statements from people who were in an area that they can see what was coming. Everything started turning white. basically started to get white, 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 and pretty soon all white until it became so white and it was covered so much that it started blotting out the sun, and also darker um, uh, ash started coming out, which we've seen. But basically, there's different color of ash. Okay, and the very first came out was very white, and it made quite the appearance to those who were there, and to literally the point where everything they saw was coming, and everything was white around them. Once again, all white to the mountain, no kind of beach, no bluff, nothing, all white. Okay, now check this out. This is part of it right now. Okay, this is the white ash that you would see on the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. On that road, we would go and we would see white ash that's still there. Okay, some of you say, well, this might be a little bit brownish. Yeah, this has been like, you know, what, 80 years. No doubt it's probably got a little bit darker over time, but it is absolutely white. This was a white ash when it first came out. And, today you can still see layers, especially as you go down, that didn't have any effect from other things, that were covering it later on or mixing with it, that was excuse me, much more white. But you can see there's still a lot of white ash and very large amounts of it. So white ash, dark forest, same road. Now, with two maps after circle and square, I have to admit, I think this is probably the most difficult one for me to figure out. I think I'm on the right track with it, but I think this particular piece may be gone from the actual today's national park and what I've been able to find. But essentially, as I was mentioning, we're once again we're going to be taking a particular road to the direction of 10,000 smokes. But before we get there, we're going to be taking a particular trail, and that trail is going to take us up to Brook Falls, a very well-known location. And like I said, most of you have seen it. Probably just don't realize it just yet, but you will when you see this. Some of the stuff we're going to share in the future. But let me give you my best guess on what this is. So as you're getting ready to go on trails and different trails, there's all these maps, right? There's trail maps. Um, big old honking bear there, right? Trail maps. So I believe at one time there was a map or two maps right next to each other as we were getting ready to go, or as we got to the road that would take us to 10,000 Smokes and to the Brook Falls Trail, that had essentially two maps and possibly had a circle and a square on it. We see circles and squares use the symbols for different things, making sure that people are on the right path. For different things, maybe you go skiing and stuff, and you've seen some diamond type of stuff. You've seen circles for different warnings or different trail heads and stuff. So I think it had something to do like that. The reason why I think we have lost that particular clue, if that's what it is, if it's connected to a map that's on the trail, which had some kind of two maps, and one probably leading you to Valley of 10,000 Smokes, the other one pointing you to the Brook Falls Trail off of the same road. But why I think that's been lost is because of the updates that have happened over the years to Katmai, to specifically Brook Falls. Let me show you what I mean. So this is very important because, once again, 1968 to 1980, this is what it looked like. There was practically nothing because it wasn't a national park at the time. It was a national monument. There wasn't a bridge here. Okay, this is Brook Falls. No, excuse me, Brooks Camp over here. But there wasn't a bridge like they have today. There's been three versions of the bridges that I'm aware of. We'll share a little bit more of that soon. But this is the road we'd be taking to 10,000 Smokes, as well as to the Brook Falls Trails, what was called New Falls Trail. And as you can see, the Falls Trail was there, 1968, 1980, and would take you up to Brook Falls. So what did it look like, though, when Byron would have been there? Because once again, he published this in 1982, November. Now, check this out. So this is essentially, darn it, make sure. So this is 1968, 1980, and I think I cut it off on accidentally. Sorry. Did I? I did. Look at that. My apologies. But essentially, we'll get into this because it does have some dates here. But this was like 1981 up to like I think 2008-ish time period of what it looked like. Okay, now there were some updates after that. And I'll show you another map. I'll show you this map again later on. I think it actually has the exact dates, so apologies, I cut that out on accident. But this is what it started looking like when Byron would have been there. Because the original floating bridge, as you would come from Brook Falls to get to the road, was added in 1981 and 1982. So sometime between 81 and 82. Okay. So I believe that Byron was one of the very first individuals to come out here and actually have the chance to walk across the first floating bridge. All right. Now, as you can see, there's also a viewing platform that was put in here. Doesn't give a date though. And then the later bridge was added in 2008. So as you can see, today we have a different kind of location where the bridge takes you. So I don't think, and this is my belief, is that wherever we possibly saw that that two maps with circle and square was possibly here. Okay, maybe it was here. It could have been, and maybe there it's still there today. But I haven't been able to find it through any imagery that I can find. But I do believe that it could have been lost because I think this is possibly where our our you know our journey started in a sense to get us to the road, where there's a dark forest and there's white is in color all year. So, but that's why I think this one's going to be a little bit difficult to answer. I've given you my best answer that I can, but let me show you a couple other things because it's going to become very important. Okay, so the Falls Trail was also rerouted, and it was rerouted in 1998. So what we have to keep in mind is that this reroute and this particular boardwalk was not there. Okay, this is called Rifles platform now, which is a second platform. There's two platforms for going out and just watching what happens. Is we'll share a little more of what happens up here, but why it's important to have these. But essentially, the Falls Trail had gone up to here when Byron would have been out there. Once again, the Old Falls Trail came up this direction, and then as you can see in 1982, it's kind of hard to see. Sorry, it's a little blurry. But in 1982, the platform was built, and then in 1997, capacity was upgraded. So I think that it's just a few changes. They added some stuff. I think they added a lower level. I'll show you what it looks like here in a bit. But it's very important. I am quite certain that Byron was one of the very first individuals, and he got out here at about the time that this was probably fairly new. And once again, he published it in November 1982. And since they were working on this bridge in 1981 to 1982, this was been an important piece, floating bridge to be able to bring stuff in, and what you needed to build this out, which probably happened in early 1982. I don't have an exact date that it became available, but it does give us the great possibility that Byron was one of the very first individuals to come out here on the trail and to actually be one of the first individuals to be on top of this platform or by it, which we'll get into that very soon. Now, this is from 1981. So once again, we know in 1981 that there was a floating bridge. Okay, this is the floating bridge that was created to go from Brooks Camp over to the road that leads us to 10,000 Smokes, which has a dark forest along the way, as well as the white that's in color all year. Big old bear coming across it. That's why today you have a third version of the bridge that goes above the water and has all these closed out different locks and doors and mechanisms, not only on the bridge but also on the trail that keeps out bears, because the bear population has continued to grow. It's been, that's one of the main reasons why people go out there, and we'll share that, and that's why you probably know of this location without even knowing you know it. Now, remember how I said there was a platform that was built at the lower end, right across where the floating bridge was, and as I mentioned, the second version of the floating bridge happened in 2008, and as you can see, this is a picture from 2006. So this was the Lower Falls, and I think this still is the Lower Falls platform that basically adventurists would have come out here and had the opportunity to get up on top of and just keep an eye on what was going on. See bears and baby bears and all that good stuff. Especially certain times of year. There's certain times of year you want to be extra cautious, but people have been coming out here to visit the bears, and you'll see fishermen and stuff. And I'll share how back in the 1980s it really was not. They weren't as concerned, and there has been very few issues between bears and humans, except for probably people who don't follow the rules, keeping their distance and all that good stuff. But you'll see soon that when Byron was out there, there wasn't as much concern about the fact that there was a bear population because it wasn't as big as it is today. It has grown quite immensely over the years. One theory I had, I'm just going to throw it out there. This may be the circle and square that it's talking about. So maybe there was two maps, and then it says past circle and square. This is kind of circle-ish. I just can't tell. I can't find any good images from above it. I can't find any good images on it that really show, or videos that kind of show if it's all the way around and circle, and then has like maybe like a platform that was more square inside of it. That was a theory I was trying to work on for a bit, but I just don't have enough clues or enough proof one way or the other. So in July and August, the path beckons. Now, this is where we get into even deeper clues that you're not going to find anywhere. With all these other connections. Now, why July and August, right? And why beckons? Well, once again, where are we going? Okay, we're going where bears are going. Why are bears coming here? And it's not just bears, but also people. But check this out. I really like this. If you look at it from a certain angle, it very much looks like this pine needle is pointing us right to the trail that we're supposed to be taking. So once again, kind of this dip and it circles down. So dip and it circles down. So he's used this in a couple ways, in my opinion. From one angle, or excuse me, from one direction, and then you flip it over from another direction. You have multiple angles for what this really kind of connects to, and then you have a pine tree or spruce tree or whatever that is that is pointing to the trail that we're going to be taking. Now, the word beckon, right? There's two main meanings to it, but the one I really like is to appear inviting, to attract. So why July and August? Well, salmon, and specifically sockeye salmon, but there's other salmon that come in July, specifically July, where it is the best time of year to come for both anglers, fishermen, as well as the bears, because salmon and sockeye salmon are going upstream to spawn, right? And to do that, they have to be pretty darn dauntless themselves and inconquerable because they're going to be trying to get past some pretty crazy things that they have to get through to go and spawn. But they have no fear, and that is their whole goal in to going up this stream. Now here's a great image once again from 1980s, early 1980s, that show that bears and anglers were all up and down Brooks River. And there's even today you can still do this, and you get permits and stuff. You just follow certain criteria. So don't think that just because bears are out there that Byron wouldn't have buried something out this direction. Because once again, this was very common to even have bears this close to fishermen and anglers who were coming to visit this location. Now, I really like this. I found this online here, and it really shows you that July is such an important month for salmon that's coming up, and specifically sockeye salmon, where as you see the real dark red. So basically, a path beckons in July into August, early August, and then technically September because the salmon that have spawned are kind of coming downstream because they've died in a sense, and the bears are eating that up as they're coming down. But the real big episode of where most fishermen and the bears and everybody comes to watch the bears usually happens between July and early August. I know it shows a little bit of June, but this really isn't the main season for sockeye salmon or for salmon. It's really July and August, which is essentially a path beckons. Why would a path beckon? Why would it be attractive? Because bears like salmon and eat the salmon. Fishermen like to go and capture big salmon coming up a falls, a river, and being able to get the access to that. And those who want to go see the bears do it, basically Path Beckons there to be able to watch them and photography, get some great photography and video of them. Now, this may start looking a little bit more like something you know and have seen. Some groups on the fall on a platform. I think this bottom platform was built later. I think the top platform was already there. When Byron got there, you have the salmon and the fish jumping to get back into spawning areas. You got to get past these big old grizzlies. Sorry, big old brown bear, not grizzlies. I believe they're brown bear. I don't know, maybe they're grizzlies too, but I'm pretty sure that they're brown bear. And they get huge. They have contests now every year on who is the biggest. But once again, the volcano. You have just amazing, bears, brown bears, yeah, brown bears. So 2,000 brown bears. And then you have this 300,000 salmon that get through Brook Falls. So talk about beckons. I mean, imagine these hungry bears. They're on a trail. They're on a path to get to where the fish are coming, specifically in July and August. So this may even look a little bit more familiar to you. I think I have maybe even some other pictures and stuff, but essentially you have bears that sit up here and wait for the salmon to jump up. I'm sure you've seen video of it or pictures, because this is where most of those pictures come from. It's really neat too. Nowadays you see just a plethora of bears that are up here during the July time period because they've been beckoned to the path. Now, how do we know, right? We're looking at a river and water. Well, once again, we've already kind of identified that these colors match the lakes that are out there. Naknek Lake, and Naknek Lake also is where the river feeds out to, and there's Brooks Lake that I think some of the water comes from and goes out to Naknek. But as you can see, we have water streaming down here. Okay, this looks like streaming water, right? Now, check this out. And then you have the kind of a platform here where you have, once again, the bear's teeth with the fangs. Now, this is really interesting because every angle that in every picture I've seen of these bears, the whitewash always has this little gap here, which I thought was interesting because it matches perfectly here. You have this whitewash coming this direction, and then you have a second whitewash right over here in this gap that we have here. And I'm telling you, every image has this gap. So whatever is causing the river to come down here, something is making so the whitewash is always clearer here than it is here and here. So we have not only the stream and river coming down, the river, but also you have a connection to the actual falls and the whitewash that happens from the falls. Now, how do we know? How did he give us additional clues? This is really neat because once again, you're not going to find this most locations and all these other connections most locations. But so what's over here? Okay, on the right side of Naknek, I could be saying the name of Naknek wrong. I'm sorry if I am. But basically, of the particular lake that's out there that makes this amazing turquoise, you have two of them, right? You have one over here and one over here. On the right side over here, okay, you have something that looks like an animal. Now, a water animal, specifically a beaver. Okay, now check this out. I'm kidding you not. You can even see, like, you get close to it, you can even see a little eyeball right here. It's like a darker eye, but you absolutely see the shape of a beaver with kind of like a hidden tail right here. Okay, but you see the shape of a beaver with a little eye right there. Okay, in the water. Now, why is that important? Check this out. So on the right side of Naknek Lake, where I'm telling you, what's over there? You have Beaver Pond. Literally Beaver Pond on the right side. Okay, so there's beavers out there. Trust me, there are beavers out there. There's literally a a beaver pond. Okay, and right where it should be, on the right side of Naknek Lake. Now over here, what do we have over here? Well, we have something that looks like, well, make up your own mind right now, but I'm going to show you what I think it looks like. I think it looks like a salmon. I really do. I mean, look at that. It looks like a fish. It looks like a fish in water, just like the tail, the fin, little finny up top here. Shape is just like a salmon. Okay. Um, Now, what type of salmon? I don't know. I mean, this is a sockeye, but so I believe he's connecting, the imagery to the salmon. Now, it's on the left side. Once again, let me show you. It's on the left side of Naknek Lake. You see a salmon. Now, on the left side of the lake, with the turquoise, not good. So this is Naknek too. Basically, is where we have Brooks Falls, where the salmon come up and they go up the stream, right? They go up the river up to Brooks Falls and they go find a spawning area. Pretty cool, right? So beaver and salmon. Now, let's connect some of the Native American population or native populations that are there, which are known as Inuit. I'm sure there's specific tribes and stuff, but let's just stay at a high level. The Inuit, and there's some really cool connections here to the Inuit. Check this out. These right here. Okay. Well, look at these. Okay. Very similar in the eyes. Okay. These are, what are these, and why are these important? How can we connect this to the Inuit? Well, the first snow goggles date back to the prehistoric Inuits. Right. So he's basically pointing you to prehistoric Inuit. And in all of my videos, I connect native populations and how they've been essentially affected in some way by migration and immigration of other cultures, other groups coming from different parts of the world. And this particular one is connected to the Inuit. And he gave us some fun clues, including sharing one of the very first snow goggles that the Inuit created, or the very first in prehistoric times. Now, in the book, The Vanishing, he even mentions Inuit. Okay? Inuit's right here. So, can't be too far of a stretch that possibly he might have wanted to actually choose a location that had connection to Inuits. Okay? Now, this is neat because I think what we find up by Brooks Falls, this is what they've found that are native to the Inuit population of ancient Inuits, are some stylized kind of human figures. And this is important because you see these that are coming down here is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like in all of them, like you get closer, you can kind of see it 1, 2, 3. See a little bit here. These you see them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And it's really neat because we also have this kind of the shape here, right here, and then you have these that are going down. And there's you can go see these. There's a cultural center there, and I think it's been there for a very long time. But these were found, and to represent more of the Inuit, this is how we connected it. So we have not only imagery connections and stuff, but we also have a very similar shape to this, and you have these coming down just like we have these coming down. Very similar to the ancient Inuit artistry here, basically stylized human figures that were put on these kind of stones and rocks and pebbles that were found at Brooks River and Brooks Falls. Pretty neat. Okay, so the path beckons to mica and driftwood. Well, how many places are you going to find driftwood and mica that covers all these other things as well? But we're going to, so let's keep going. So driftwood, I mean, this is a simple one, right? What's driftwood? Basically, it's just wood that comes on shore by sea, a lake, or a river. We have a lake and we have a river. Okay, so it can't be that hard to realize there's going to be driftwood here at where we're going, which is right along the river and a lake. So there's going to be driftwood. Okay, and in fact, I saw somebody put this up here Somebody wrote an article, Brooks River Origins, Part 2. What do they say? It has driftwood. Brooks River, driftwood. Okay, so I didn't write that. Somebody else wrote that. Salmon, Katmai Lakes, driftwood, Brooks River. All right, somebody else put that out there. So obviously there's, driftwood. Simple one. That's the easiest one easiest clue of this entire thing. Trust me. Now, let's get into deeper, right? Mica. Now, mica really is not that common. You have to have certain things happen. You have to have certain types of rock to be able to get mica. And as you can see, um, earth movements and also the Katmai eruption, basically you have different articles and stuff that you can find out there that talk about the quartz mica that's out there, the diorite. Let me show you more. So in this University of Chicago Press Journal that was done in 1926 about the Katmai magmatic province. Okay, the next few slides I'm going to show, I think like 3 or 4 slides that are going to show, the discussion about mica, specifically in this journal back in 1926 about Katmai magmatic province. Okay, so once again, this is in that particular research and study, and it talks about such as more complex minerals such as amphiboles and micas. Okay, so there's definitely talk about micas being out there. Okay, you can feel free to read through this if you want. I'm just going to try to go forward quickly. So hornblends and micas are generally recognized as essentially plutonic minerals, blah, blah, blah. More talk about micas and Katmai and in the area. Okay, in the 1920 plus 26, I think, if I remember right. But basically, plutonic process contributed on the occasional outflow of minerals, types of magma, quartz-bearing diacites of Mount Shasta, California. It's just giving like examples. But essentially, more talk about micas in Katmai, more talk about micas in Katmai. And this particular one is, it gets a little confusing. It's like no evidence of a tendency. It's like no evidence of mica. No, it's not that what it's saying. Tendency for the mica and hornblende bearing rocks to depart from the variation lines of the research that they're doing. So it's basically saying there are micas out there. It's just they're saying that there's no evidence, so there's a tendency for them to depart from certain variation lines of pyroxene bearing rocks. So they don't have differences. Once again, we're going back to the study, but more evidence to show that there is absolutely mica out that direction. Now, once again, the same. This looks a little bit different, but it's just because I found it in a different version of the same study by Clarence. And as you can see, it talks about schists. It talks about mica develops and into mica schists. So basically, just more details about mica. Now, what's mica? Mica is very common in igneous and metamorphic rock. And what do we have in Katmai area? Well, the deposits in the area metamorphic. Okay, so we see metamorphic, and we can see it once again, and then igneous rocks, magnetic rocks. Now, the real cool part about this is, as you can see, the igneous rocks shown in orange. Okay, let me go where the orange is. So igneous rocks, orange, is what? Right by Brooks Lake and Brooks Camp, and would be probably affected because there's such a big area of igneous rocks, and we know that micas are out there. So if we're at Brooks Camp, we're seeing driftwood and probably micas coming down, or all in that area that we're going to. So driftwood and micas. All right, hopefully we've proven that. Now, under that which may be last touched or first seen standing, look north at the wing and dig. All right, so this gets a little bit more complex. Let's move forward. Under that which may be last touched or first seen standing. Okay, well, remember how I said there's a standing platform that was built? That's right. The first standing platform that was actually built out in Brook Falls. Now there's another one. It's called Rifles Falls, and they added on to the first one, which is Brook Falls platform. But it's the first standing platform that was ever built out that way. Okay, and which may be last touched. So it also allows for, it's basically the last part that you can touch along the trail for Brook Falls, the Brook Falls Trail that has been there, and we know was there even when Byron was going there. But basically can be last touched as a part of the trail for explorers, somebody to go and who is along that trail, or what I like to actually think it's really connecting to is the last touch by bears. So bears can't touch it because it's basically a platform that is above and lock them out. That keeps them, the photographer safe as they're keeping an eye on the bears that are out there and having some fun watching the bears catch those salmon that they've been beckoned to. Now, once again, we've already kind of talked about this, and I'm hopeful. Yes, I do have it. Okay, so 1981 to 2010. So this, once again, we shared this before. I cut out this date. Apologies, but there you go. 1981 to 2010. So this is what it looked like when he would have been out there. Right? We had this older platform, which was the first floating bridge. We had that Lower Falls platform here. We had the trail and the road that lead us to Black Forest, as well as the white that's in snow, which is the white ash. And we take the trail up here. Once again, this trail at the time Byron would have been there went up this direction, not this way. This platform was not there, coming up here. And in 1982, the first standing platform was built. I don't know if there was some of the locking trail and stuff that they have nowadays where it's above ground and it's completely locked out from bears. I don't know if they had that. I think when he was out there, they probably just had the platform here that you were able to go up and after you went just on a complete trail through the forest, the dark forest. But anyway, get up here to Brook Falls. So once again, very well connects to the verse connection, basically where we need to go. And here's some more proof of it. So, there was a part of it. Look north to the wing, right? So, once again, I don't know if this part is here or was there. I think that maybe it was just this when it first got created. There may have been some kind of a trail that led to it, or piece that is higher up that led to it. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, but look at this. It's wing-like in terms of a structure. Okay. Now the upper part of it, I think, was always there, and then they built a little bit of a lower platform for more people to see it. But this, I think, was very close to the original. You can't see the second part, which is a little bit down past this part, but it very much looks wing-like. Okay. Now, what's really neat is not only do the teeth kind of connect, to the bears being at the final location, but you have this kind of unique thing here. So maybe there was something. Was it on this side when it first was created? Because once again, the trail would have been more over here. So did it connect this direction, like we have here, or basically he's just kind of pointing us to this because he wanted to use the 4 o'clock and basically for April and the Shasta daisies to keep it at 4. But basically we have what looks like the same kind of angle. So maybe there was something that connects right to what looks like the squared platform or what looks like a wing. Okay, that also connects with fangs to help us to know that, hey, guess what? We're taking a trail that brings us up to the first standing platform that allows us to watch a bunch of bears who got beckoned by salmon that come in July and August. Now, I like this because it shows you all the bears, and once again, there's a lot more bears in population than there was before. But to show you what it looks like underneath the actual platform. Now, once again, this part is the higher part of the platform. Excuse me, the lower part of the platform. I think this was created at a later time, and I think the upper part here was created at the beginning. I think this is what Byron would have been on and checking out. Let's continue to move forward. Once again, gives you a quick view of what it looks like underneath, and there's a reason for that, and we'll go into that just a little bit. Now, look north. Okay, so this is north, south, east, west. So look north would be up here. Okay, this is the north part of the platform, of the wing. Okay, this is the north part. Now, he's pointing to the north. Once again, let's see this. North. Pointing to the north. And it's, I think, potentially, because it says under, right? If we go back to the verse, look north at the wing and dig. Okay, under that, which may be last touched or first seen standing, look north at the wing and dig. So we get north. He's pointing us to the north side of the actual platform, the first standing platform. Okay, and he's pointing us to the north side. Now, I think it possibly is under that particular platform, but interesting, you have a star here, and you have these unique kind of colors or and shape, three of them, lines with different colors. I'm wondering if there's something there or was there at that platform that the star and these colors that would be kind of underneath the platform or by and next to the platform on the north side that may help with a final dig spot. But I believe that essentially we're looking at something around here, underneath here. It could be somewhere in this general area, but it says under, so I think it possibly under here. I could be wrong with that. Once again, until I get out there and get boots on the ground, it's very difficult to figure some of these last pieces out. But I believe this is the north side. I know this is the north side, but I believe it's somewhere in this general area. At least in my opinion. Now, as you can see, there's even a ramp that goes down right to where you would need to be. Okay, and I think this ramp looks pretty old. So I was a little worried about that. I thought you couldn't, I didn't know if there was a ramp that actually was take you off of this. And I think this might have been the very first, one of the first ramps, and how you probably would have gotten into it before they maybe connected some of those other platforms that they created. I think at a later time. So be dauntless and inconquerable. Determination, your goal, right? That's the end of the verse. Well, now this connects. Most people agree, and I agree with them, that the dauntless and inconquerable is a similar quote. There's a bit of a difference to the quote that you would find on the Wright brothers monument. That definitely has dauntless in it, and I think it's inconquerable. Anyway, but so he's pointing us to once again in a few things here, and let me just kind of go into it. So the Japanese clue says, to achieve by dauntless and inconquerable determination. This part is a quote from a book. I don't know a book. I can't find it in a book. All I can find it is near the monument of the Wright brothers. So once again, the Wright brothers helped to create the first planes, right? Once again, we know we had to take two friends of octave to get here. So we had to take two planes. So in a sense, he's giving us another reference that we need to take planes to get to this location, and specifically two of them. Okay, so that's a part of it. Now, also, once again, like I said, it's pretty dauntless to go out here into Alaska, right? Taking a small plane, that's dauntless and inconquerable in one way, in an amazing way. But also, what's out there? You got bears, man. And these bears, they're focused, right? They're focused on getting to that path and getting them an opportunity in July and August to eat up as much of that salmon and grow as big as they can to get ready for the winter coming up to be able to hibernate. And once again, it's also, I think, you have to be dauntless and inconquerable, just like they would in the 1980s of fishermen, to where you're out there with the bears and not even worried about it. These guys are just fishing. There's nothing. They're not worried about this bear. This bear's leaving them alone. And most of the time, that's the case. You leave them alone, they leave you alone. They come through the camps and all this stuff. And that's been going on for a very long time, decades, with very, very few issues, from what I can tell. But basically, talk about dauntless and inconquerable. Oh my gosh! I mean, to be out there with bears, you had to take a flight in, two flights into uh, the outdoors in the middle of Alaska, where it can be very cold and there can be bears that are within 50 yards of you. Talk about dauntless and inconquerable. Wow! And then even today, you can still do wading trail. So you don't have to take the trail that goes above the ground and is locked off from all bears. You can actually get permits to actually go out into the wading areas, so you can be right there on the water where the bears are coming. So that's even available to explorers today. Now, once again, I mean, what better location and final piece of the verse, dauntless and inconquerable? I mean, a location that had the biggest 20th century volcanic eruption, massive eruption. So you're going out to a place that had a huge eruption. Who knows when the next one's going to be, right? Has big old brown bear. Has the opportunity you had to fly in. I mean, what is more dauntless and inconquerable than that? Than all those things combined, and then on top of it, you have these salmon who are, in a sense, dauntless and inconquerable. They're not going to give up. Their whole goal is to get to that spawning area. They don't care less. They got to go upstream. They got bears. They got fishermen. Everything's trying to, capture them and eat them. And still, nothing's going to stop them. That dauntless and inconquerable courage and spirit is even within the fish. So, I mean, many connections to that final piece of the verse there. So, hopefully, you had a good time. This probably went longer than I hoped, but at the same time, a lot to cover, and I sure have quite a bit more as well. Basically, hope you've enjoyed this. Really enjoyed bringing this to you. It's been, years in the making, and if you want to connect with me, there's different ways to do that. You can do that through Reddit. My Reddit username. I'm also on Discord, and that's the only place I actually go to for collaboration with other, the secret searchers. And I think that's the best place to go for individuals with open minds for alternate solutions and just listening to each other and being mostly kind, most of the time. And we get into little spits and arguments, of course, but I do highly respect those on Discord, and I think it's a great place to go. I highly recommend those of you who have alternate theories. It's probably a good place for you. I'm not sure how good Facebook is there. I don't never had a Facebook account, and then I'm not a big fan of the Reddit groups that are out there, but I am on Reddit, and you can join me there. Yeah, I say go to Discord if you want. It's a great place. But you can connect with me directly on Discord. Here's my handle, or this might be my handle. I don't know. And then you can also, if you like the more professional side, you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn. Here's my LinkedIn profile. Especially if you want to connect with me, like you're going out to Katmai and Brook Falls, you want to discuss it a little bit more at a professional level and different things. I'm all for helping out in any way I can. There's some additional secrets that I didn't share here, but I've shared as a big chunk of what I know here, and I'm more than happy to kind of provide some additional guidance. And if anybody wants to take me out to a Katmai, bring me along the way. I'd love to get out there, and I truly believe if we can get out there together, we might be able to convince um, uh, the I guess the authorities over the park that there might be something out that direction. They may not let us do any sort of digging, but maybe they themselves can do it. If we can really kind of prove it. And I'm hoping this video maybe gets out to some of them, and maybe they just go find it themselves, right? Geez, I don't care. I don't have to be the one who finds these things. Just let's just figure these things out. Let's get it done. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It's been a true pleasure to share this information, and hopefully this leads to something. And check out my other content on my YouTube channel. You can find it here. It's a different path, The Secret. If you're seeing this video, it's on YouTube, most likely, and unless I add it to some other platforms, but more likely be on YouTube. But so click that button, subscribe. You'll get a chance to go see our other content. Go to a lot of different places, and we're going to continue to do this. In fact, I think my next one will probably be New York. I know I keep saying that, but I keep finding some new evidence that keeps pointing me in certain directions, and I want to make sure I give as best of an option for success in that as well. But looking forward to bringing you all to my Inwood Hills search and why it is at Inwood Hills location, which is the very top part of Manhattan, very northernmost part of Manhattan. And we'll get into that one hopefully next, possibly Houston, possibly New Orleans. Those are other ones that I really want to do in the future. But thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully you enjoyed it.